money, my body. On 24th of January, Davido actually made history, performed at Gala di Peace Arena. That is
Life is freedom. Legacy is not just
my money, my body, now your own. So now, what do you have to say about this? I want you to put your own comment in the comment section because a lot of people are really responding to this. You know, sometimes they will say Davido not be saying this. I think it takes another level of concentration, another level of kind of commitment to really be like Davido. You know why? Because in Nigeria there is a particular culture. The rich people children if you be rich man pikin, you go suffer because a lot of people, they are not going to love you because your papa get money. But I'm not talking of the politicians that actually plundered our money. I'm talking about the business people that actually made their money from the business way and all these kind of things. But still, some people feel that they are really the problem of this country. So that is why Davido always running into challenges, and a lot of people can really understand it from that direction. So now let's look at this thing. The performance of Davido actually highlights some of the biggest hits he's made in history. Like Unavailable was actually performed at that event, and we got a Feel, Then Go Feel It. That was really scintillating. And Fall, If is really one of favorite of Davido. That is something I can say based on the performances and the response by audience and the rest. He actually represented Afrobeats as the only Nigerian artist on the main lineup. That is one thing you got to understand. On the main lineup, Davido was the only Nigerian artist there. So that is a great representation of Afrobeat. And then we got a crowd actually singing along loudly, showing Afrobeat's strong fan base in France. Afrobeat fan base in France is far grown right now. This is owing to the exports of Afrobeat and also the music culture and our fashion style. That is something you got to understand. So we'll talk about that, next time. But you need to understand that the export culture is really high at the time. His performance received a massive cheers, especially during Unavailable. And then If, of course. So Davido actually shares same stage lineup with global artists like Future, ASAP Rocky, Christiana Aguilera. That is something you got to understand. So further confirmed his actual position as one of the Afrobeat biggest global exports. That is what we are really further confirming. Why this show was actually important is that one of Davido's biggest France performance ever. That is one of the biggest France performance ever. Apart from selling out arenas, that is one of the biggest, or that was one of the biggest. And then it strengthened, yes, one artist called Fola. This guy is a popular artist in the music industry, did something sampling Two Baba's Love is a Crime. Is love a crime? Guys, I'm actually wrong. If Love is a Crime from Two Baba, I think a lot of people will actually know the sound, but the Gen Zs, we don't know the sound. That is the question you need to ask yourself. I think we need to take a peep into this. So now you got to understand that this particular sound was done by Two Baba years back, more than a decade. Two Baba actually did that sound. But now the new school, they are really bringing it back. I think that is actually interesting, and we need to encourage a lot of other artists to keep doing this thing because it gives us opportunity to revive the old vibes. That is something I feel about that. Guys, when he sampled Two Babas If Love is a Crime, a lot of people were like expecting that he just dropped it. But no, this guy didn't quietly drop it. He decided to say, you know what, I'm taking it to Two Baba so that he will listen and give approval for this. And then that is what you see, or that was what you saw, in there. And a lot of people will understand that this is like a respect to legend himself. He met with Tubaba and played a snippet for him directly, and Tubaba was in approval for this. Now, that is how you respect an OG in the music industry. That is something I feel, or a legend in the music industry. Sampling an old African classic is actually powerful. That is something a lot of people don't seem to understand. Looking at the likes of Burna Boy, doing it with anybody, Angelique Kidjo, and then Fela, a lot of others, you will understand that it is actually powerful because it helps you to connect with the young and the old. That is something you got to understand about that. So it connects generations and introduce Gen Zs to timeless music. Is it a hit, or should classic be left alone? Those are the questions I'm really asking. Classic should be not left alone. Follow Afrobeat more for updates. Afrobeat blogs.
Surely doesn't cry. I want to be one day. My babe, you know there's strictly like some certain time of your rolling. Surely doesn't cry. I want to be one day. My babe, you know there's strictly like some certain time of your rolling.